Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Let's crack real math. My name is Viraaj, and in this video we'll be having a look at questions and everything about percentages. So before we begin, please do not forget to perform an LSS, that is like, share and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get started. So percentages is a topic that is very practice oriented, meaning the more you practice, the more comfortable you get in it. So let's get into examples, and along examples I'll be explaining certain points about the topic. So let's go to the first example. Right. First example says, what is 12.5% of 32? Now, whenever you are asked to find the percentage of something, basically this keyword right here, of, whenever you ask something of like 10% of 99, 1% of 6, all you have to do is this of, it represents times, multiplication. So you take a percentage, whatever your percentage is, and take it over 100. In this case, it would be 12.5 over 100. And then with your word of, symbolizing times, you times it by the number it's asking you, that's 32. And putting this in your calculator, you should get 4. That means 4 is 12.5% of 32. Now I'll explain this again. Let's just clear this a bit. It's a bit messy here. Okay. Now, first things first, when you see a question like this, the letter of, you know, you're immediately timesing it. Now 12.5%, you simply take this over 100. We all know the ground rules of percentages. You know that if you have a fraction or a decimal, to convert it into a percentage, you simply times it by 100 when going to percentage. But if you're going the other way around, if you want to go from percentage to fraction or decimal, you simply divide by 100. And in this case, that's what we're doing, dividing our percentage by 100, because it said, what is 12.5% of 32? Divide this by 100, you get 12.5 over 100, times it by 32, and you get 4. And that is the final answer for that question. On to the next example. This question says, what is 17.5% of 80? First things first, we know this of is representing multiplication. Then next step is take this over 100. So you have 17.5 over 100. Then you times it by the number that they've given, that's 80. And all you have to do is simply put this in your calculator, plug in your values. 17.5 times 80, 17.5 over 100, sorry, times 80, and that is 14. So 14 is 17.5% of 80. So again, as you saw, the same thing we did, we presented this off to be as times. We took the percentage that's asking for, divided by 100 over here, and simply times it by the 80 as symbolized over here. On to the next example. It says, what is 10 as a percentage of 50? So as you can see, yes, there is the word of, but it's not exactly asking a percentage of something. It's going the other way around, it's going the opposite. It's asking, what is 10 as a percentage of 50? They've given us the the value which you would actually find over here. Like in this case we got 14, they've given us that value 10. What they're trying to find from us is the value, in this case that was 17.5. So whenever you have something like this, whenever you're trying to write something as a percentage, if you're trying to write a number as a percentage of another number, all you have to do is take the smaller one as a fraction, put it over the bigger one. So the small one is the numerator, your bigger one is the denominator, and you times it by 100. And 10 over 50 times 100 is 20. So 20%. Make sure you do know your units, because it asked what is 10 as a percentage. So yeah, percentage here, percentage of 50. So if it was maybe like say what is 9 as a percentage of 300, all you would do is you would do 9 over 300 times 100, and you would have your answer as 3. So 9 is 3% of 300. So whenever you have a question like that, take the smaller one as a numerator, bigger one as a denominator, multiply by 100. And the next question, something very similar. It says, what is 36 as a percentage of 45? So again, not asking us for the not giving us a particular percentage and asking it of it. It's going the other way around, just like in question 4. So over here you do the same thing. Take the smaller number to be a numerator, the bigger number to be your denominator, that's 45, and times it by 100. And doing that, that should be 80% if I'm not wrong. Let's just have a quick look at the calculator. 36, 45, yep, it is 80%. So that is your final answer for that question. So all you do is take the smaller number as a numerator, bigger number denominator, times by 100, you will get 80. Now this is extra knowledge, but you can note it down. The way if you are actually wondering how we derived this formula, we simply derived it from the same formula that we've been using for questions 3 and 4. Let's have a look at question 3. Let's have a look at question 3. It asked us what is 17.5% of 80, and we said we should do 17.5 over 100 times 80, and the final answer we got was 14. What if it asked us to write, even though we know the answer, what if it didn't give us this value, and it said, what is 14 as a percentage of 80? So you know that this would have been your variable which you're trying to find, say x. Now if you do know, and if you are using your algebra actually, you just know that this is x over 100 equals to 14 over 80. Take this 80 to the other side, and cross multiplying, you know your x is simply 100 times 14 over 80, and that would give you 17.5, the same value that they asked us in the question. So that's another way of just looking at how we formed that new formula for that question. On to the next example. This one asks, how much is £70 after an increase of 5.5%? Now there are two ways of doing this question. For this first question I will look at it in both ways, but for the remaining examples of this type I will just look at one, which I'm more comfortable in. So the first example, also known more as the standard example, first things first, you just take 5.5% of 70. So 5.5% of 70, that's simply 5.5 over 100 times 70. Emphasis, I said 5.5% of 70, so this multiplication is due to the word of. You take a percentage, put it over 100, times it by 70. So doing that in your calculator, just quickly do that. Okay, I am getting 3.85. And now, since 3.85 is 5.5% of 70, it said how much is £70 after an increase. And that means you simply increase your original value by 3.85. So simply you would have 70 plus 3.85, and that would give you £73.85. Now, there is another method to do this question, and this method is not known to many people. So if you like, you can stick to the standard method, that's the one I just did, or you could use this one. It said, how much is £70 after an increase of 5.5%? So let's say at 100%, it was £70. So the original value with no tampering at 100% normal value, it's £70. Now it said, how much is it worth? How much is £70, sorry, after an increase of 5.5%? So all you do is you take your 5.5 and add it to your 100 over here. So 100 plus 5.5, that would give you 105.5, and write it below your 100. And now we need to know the value that we do not know, that's x. Now this may look very complicated at first. You may be saying, why am I making these ratios? But all I'll do now is simply cross multiply and solve for x. So you can almost consider it as fraction like this, but I don't write it as a fraction, I just think of it as I'm cross multiplying. So I would now have 100x equals to 70 times 105.5. Doing that in your calculator, you should get 7385. And now you just solve for x. X is 7385, divide by 100, and doing that, that is 73.85 pounds. So you can see we got the same answer. So you can always do it both ways to confirm if you're correct, but this method I do prefer more because I feel like it's a lot quicker. So I will be using this method, the ratio method, in the next examples, because I feel like the standard method is pretty common and most people do know it, although I did explain it to you over here, so you can follow that. On to the next example. It says, how much is $840 after an increase of 125%? So we have 840, and we know that's $840 at 100% with no tampering. 100% at 840. It's 840 at 100%, sorry. Now it said after an increase of 125, and as I said, what I do is I add the amount of increase or decrease to 100. So this would be 100 plus 125, which is 225. And now we're just trying to find the value. How much is $840 after an increase? That's what we're trying to find, x. Again, you do your cross multiplication. You will have 100x equals to 840 times 225. 840 times 225. Doing that in your calculator, that is 189,000. And solving for x, you simply divide it by 100. This and this would cancel out this and this, and you would now have $1,890. Please do not forget your unit. And that is the answer for that question. On to the next one. It says increase 40 miles by 43%. So it says increase 40, so at 40, so basically we have 40, and that's untampered. At 100% we have 40. Now it said increase it by 43%. So basically all we will do now is add this 43 to 100. That's 143, and we're solving for x. Solving for x, we have 100x equals to 40 times 143, and doing that you get 5720. And now solving for x, x is simply 5720 divided by 100, and that is 57.2 miles. Please never forget your units, very, very important. So again, using that method I had, the ratio method and the cross multiplication method, take your original value, put it down here, that is at 100%. You add your percentage, or the percentage increase or decrease they've given to you, to that 100, so you have 143, and you now solve for the new value of x. And onward to the next example. Okay, It says on weekdays it costs £5.50 per hour to rent a golf club. On Tuesdays the cost is 35% more. How much does it cost to rent? Okay, how much does it cost to rent a club for 3 hours on a Tuesday? Okay, let's bisect this question. So basically, it says on weekday it costs £5.50 rather per hour. So we know this is our original value, 5.50, and this is untampered. At 100%, it's 5.50 without any decrease or increase. Then it says on Tuesdays the cost is 35% more. So take your 35% and add it to your 100. Doing that, you get 135, and you now have X. Even though it didn't ask us to find the rent on a Tuesday, it did ask us to find it on a Tuesday, but it said for 3 hours. We can just find it on a Tuesday for 1 hour first, because it said per hour over here. So let's do that first, and with that we can now go to the next step of the question. So cross multiplying again, we know we have 100x equals to 5.50 times 135, that is 742.5, and your x would be 742.5 divided by 100, and doing that you should get 7.425. I think it's pounds, is it? I think, yeah, pounds. Now we have the value of how much it costs on a Tuesday to rent per hour, but it said how much does it cost to rent for 3 hours. So all you have to do now is take this value and times it by 3, and doing that, putting that in your calculator, 7.7425 times 3, that is 22.28 to 2 decimal places pounds. And that is your final answer for that question. So again, very important to read the question till the last word, because a lot of people might have just stopped here and lost marks for not timesing it by 3 and finding the correct answer. On to the next example. Right, so this question, let's zoom in a bit. It says, what is the percentage change from 37.8 to 28? Now this brings a key formula that you should know. Percentage change equals to your change in quantity, let's write Q, okay, let's just write the whole thing, quantity over your original quantity and you times all of that by 100. Now please note that when I am saying quantity, I don't necessarily mean in terms of like liters or whatever, just the value. You could say change in value, change in number over the original number. And this is a formula that you need to memorize or know or just store it in your brain, because this it is very handy. Now it says, what is the percentage change from 37.8 to 28? So first things first, let's find the change in quantity. The change in quantity, you can simply do 37.8 minus 28. And doing that, I'm pretty sure that's 7, okay, let's just have a quick look. 9.8, sorry. So this is simply the first part, rather, the numerator is 9.8 over your original quantity, which is 37 in this case, because if you read the question carefully, it says, what's the percentage change from 37.8 to 28? So it's going from here to here. So original quantity is 37.8. And now all you have to do is times this by 100. So simply doing this and putting this in your calculator, 9.8 divided by 37.8 times 100, and that is 25.93% to 2 decimal places. Now this is a percentage decrease. Now some exams might not require you to write whether it's increase or decrease, but I'll just do it here for to be on the safe side rather, but you should know if your exam does require you to do that or not. And it's a decrease because the value is obviously decreasing, and that is your final answer for that question. Now on to the next one. It says, what is the percentage change from 71 to 90? Again, the first things first, the formula is change in quantity or change in number over the original quantity or original number times 100. To find the change, all you do is 90 minus 71. Doing that, you should get 19. Yep, 19. And your original quantity is 71 because it says it goes from 71 to 90, so it goes like this. So you simply have 19 over 71 and you times it by 100. And let's quickly do that. 19 over 71 times 100, and I am getting 26.76. 2 decimal places percentage increase this time. Percentage increase. Why increase? Because the value is obviously increasing when it goes from 71 to 90. And again, you just find the difference between the two numbers, use that as a numerator over here, take your original quantity, which is 71, and times it by 100. Okay, let's look at this question. It says, the price of a bag of clams drops from £40 to 15 pounds. What is the percentage change? So again, you are looking for percentage change. We need to find the difference between these two numbers first. All you do is subtract one from the other. 14 minus 15, and 14 minus 15, that is 25. And now you put this number, that's your numerator, over your denominator, which is the original value. That is 40 because it goes from 40 to 15. So you do 25 over 40 times 100. And doing that in your calculator, that should be 62.5%. And this is a decrease because it drops, the price drops from 40 to 15, and that is your final answer for that question. Again, you need to make sure whether it's decrease or increase, but please do know if your exam requires you to know that. And then again, your numerator is just a difference between the two values, and your denominator is the original value. So on to our next example, and the final example for this video. Now this question is not a challenge question. However, if you do want to, you can pause the video and have an attempt on it. I believe it's too easy for a challenge question. Now let's have a look. It says, on a flight to Nepal, one third of the passengers, you could say, passengers are British, and 1/4 of the passengers are Nepalese. How many passengers are neither British nor Nepalese? So they've given us the amount of passengers that are British, they've given us the amount of passengers that are Nepalese, but they want us to find the amount of passengers that are not British nor Nepalese. So all you have to do, if you use common sense, if I were to say I have 10 people on a bus, if I were to give the information as it is, if I said, oh, 2 of them were men, there were 2 men rather, there were 4 women, how many children were there? You would know all you have to do is just add these 2 together, that would be 6, and just subtract that from 10, which would be 4. So using that very same logic, that's what we're going to do. So 1/3, we have 1 over 3 here, and 1 over 4 here. So all we will do is do 1 over 3 plus 1 over 4, and doing that, you could either use a calculator for this or do it handwritten the long way. Either way, it's okay. You get 7 over 12, and all we have to do is take the 7 over 12 and take it away, subtract it from 1. So it will be 1 minus 7 over 12. This is equal to 5 over 12, and that is the amount of passengers that are neither British nor Nepalese. Now why I used 1 is because we are using very small values here. We know that all the passengers, if you add up all the passengers, that should give you 100% of the people. And if you see, 1/3 in percentage is sort of just like 33.3%. 1/4 of the passengers is simply 25%. And 5/12, if you convert this to percentage, as I said earlier in this video, you times it to get to percentage. This is simply 41.7, you could say, or you could even round it up to 42. And if you are to add up all this, you should get a value very close to 100. So add that at 25, and I am getting, in fact, 99.996, which if you round it to the nearest whole number upwards, that is 100%. So as you can see, you could work out this question in terms of percentage, you could work in terms of fraction as it is, or you could work it in terms of decimals. We know that 1/3 is, we know 1/3 is simply 0. Recurring 333. We know 1/4 is 0.25, and we know that if we add up all the decimals, we should get 1. So add these two, whatever your answer is over here, subtract it from 1, and in the end you should get something like 5/12 or 0.41.7. Sorry, 0.41 rather, or 0.42 if you were to round it. So that is the answer to that question. Thank you for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Please do perform an LSS, that is a like, share and subscribe, and thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice one.